The extent to which we believe our qualities are malleable or set in stone affects every aspect of our existence, from our relationships to our ambitions. In fact, our beliefs about the malleability of our qualities form the foundation of our identity and help us determine who we want to be. For example, if you believe yourself to be introverted, you may assume you will never be an outgoing person. Or if you think of yourself as shy, you might assume you'll never be a gregarious one. This belief can influence whether you try to become a salesperson or perhaps even determine where you live, whether to rent an apartment in the city or move to the suburbs and raise a family. It can also affect how far you go in your career. Would you take a job where you would have to speak up and lead others even if you believed yourself to be introverted? Our beliefs about ourselves can even determine whether we succeed at being parents. Do you think that you have the ability to be a good parent? Or do you feel that there is no hope because you grew up in an unhealthy environment? How much agency we believe we have in determining our own lives and the lives of those around us is one of the most fundamental questions we can ask. There are two competing answers to this question, a modern one and an old one. The old view is that our qualities are set in stone. It comes from ancient Greece. The word psyche means soul, and logos means speech. Thus, psychology is literally the study of the soul's speech. And like the soul, our personalities and qualities are immutable. We are born with a certain temperament and a certain amount of intelligence, and neither can be altered. You can't get any smarter. You can't become more sociable. You just can't. The modern view contradicts the ancient Greek view. According to the modern view, the mind, instead of being unchanging, is plastic. Just as clay can be shaped into anything, our qualities aren't set in stone. We can change them. If you were born with a certain amount of intelligence, you can get smarter. You just need to find the right techniques and put in the work. If you were born with a certain level of sociability, you can become more sociable with practice. Of course, we all know people who seem to possess an extraordinary amount of almost everything. The great man view is that they must have been born that way, but the plasticity view argues otherwise. This view argues that they were probably born with a normal amount of whatever it is they have a lot of, and they got where they are now by searching for the secrets of human excellence and putting in the work. We marvel at Mozart and say he was born with musical talent, or we see someone like Bill Gates and attribute his success to innate smarts. But the plasticity view argues that they didn't start out as geniuses. Rather, they found methods and practices that allowed them to get smarter, more talented, or more skilled. Some people, having discovered these methods, changed themselves. And that's why we call them self-made men. But how does it work? How can we change ourselves by changing our beliefs? Well, when we believe that our qualities are set in stone, we don't expend energy trying to improve them because it's futile. Why bother improving your memory if it's just in your genes? Or trying to become more physically fit if you were just born without athletic ability? Or cultivating empathy if you were just born without much feeling? On the other hand, when we believe our qualities can be improved, we expend energy trying to do so. We take steps to improve our memory, our fitness, or our empathy. In order to make progress, however, we must abandon the belief that we're helpless. Instead, we need to adopt a growth mindset, the belief that we can get better at almost anything we want to, but this isn't easy. How can we convince ourselves that we can improve our limitations? Are just limitations? Well, we can remind ourselves that our beliefs about our abilities don't actually reflect our actual abilities. That is, they are often wrong. When we remind ourselves that we tend to underestimate our abilities, we're free to try to improve them. Imagine that you've applied for a job and received an interview request. If you think of yourself as competent, you might think you won't get the job, but you apply anyway. Once you get the interview, you do well. They offer you the job and you accept. You go to work and perform well. The point is, you succeeded even though you started out believing you weren't capable of getting the job. We can use this same logic to escape the limitations of our current beliefs. The idea is to try to disprove your belief that you can't improve by improving. All you need is evidence of success. Of course, we must be careful to interpret this evidence correctly. That is, we must make sure that our successes aren't due to luck rather than our abilities. To make this distinction, we can rely on objective measures such as test scores, grades, or performance reviews. For example, if you took a class on how to memorize names and numbers and improved your score on the final exam, that's evidence that you can improve your memory. To further ensure that the improvement wasn't due to luck, you can take the class again and improve your score once more. You could even take several people with similar memory abilities as yours, have them take the same class, and see if they improve as well. Now it's clear that you improved your memory. Of course, sometimes we cannot rely on others or repeat a process. For example, suppose you want to believe that you can improve your compassion, but there is no objective way to measure compassion. In situations like this, we can look for less objective signs of improvement, such as changes in how we think about ourselves or the problems we face. We can also look for signs of improvement in how we act toward others. Of course, some people might argue that compassion is a fixed trait and can't be changed. But I'm not talking about whether you can become Mother Teresa. I'm talking about whether you can increase the amount of compassion you feel today compared to yesterday. For example, if you felt angry about someone else's success but worked to change how you react to that success, that's a sign of improvement. This is true for any quality that can be improved upon, such as our conscientiousness, creativity, empathy, happiness, self-esteem, stress management, persistence, motivation, physical health, social skills, spirituality, and tolerance. What we need is a plan, and here's one. 1. Identify the qualities that you would like to improve upon. 2. Determine whether you can objectively measure these qualities or whether you can measure changes in how you think about or act toward things or people. 3. Make a plan for gathering evidence of improvement. 4. Take action. Disprove your beliefs by improving. 5. Interpret your results. Make sure that your improvements aren't due to luck. How will you know if you're successful? Well, you will have proven that you can improve, and that is a very big deal. You will have moved away from the view that you were born with a particular level of quality and that's all you're ever going to have. You will have moved toward the view that you can cultivate the qualities you desire. If you successfully prove to yourself that you can improve in 1 or 2 areas, you will begin to believe that you can improve in many areas. Your mind will become plastic. You will become convinced that you are the sculptor and your qualities are the clay. The result will be extraordinary growth in every area of your life. You will be the author of your future, but there is another important benefit to adopting a plastic view of your mind. Not only do you get to choose what you want to improve, but you also get to decide when you've improved enough. You no longer need to meet society's standards. You decide what they should be. For example, if you're a student and you want to be an engineer, you might believe that to be a good engineer, you must score above 90 on every test. If you believe this, you might feel pretty bad after taking a test and scoring a 78. But if you believe that you can get better at engineering, that you can learn to score above 90, you no longer need to meet society's standards. You can set your own. You might decide that a 78 is good enough. Having this kind of flexibility in your beliefs about your abilities allows you to explore the world without fear, and that makes you wonderfully free. This is part of a longer video that I encourage you to watch. Thanks for watching.